I'll close that down. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Leona. Afternoon, welcome to the meeting of the Planning Applications Committee. I'm Councillor Ireland. I'm the chair of the Planning Applications Committee. I'd like to introduce the councillors that are present today. Provost Fletcher, Councillor McLean, Councillor Miller, Councillor Swift and Councillor Convery. As well as the elected members, we have the officers from the council present. We have Julie Nichol, who is the Planning and Building Standards Manager, Alan Pepler, who is the Principal Planner for Development Management. Sharon McIntyre is the Clerk to the Planning Applications Committee. Leona Allison is the Assistant Committee Services Officer. And additionally from Planning, we also have David Haney and Derek Scott. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest on any of the items before us today? Okay. Thank you very much. We've got two applications before us. The first application is number 2021-0420, and that is the construction of an all-weather athletics track on existing school playing field with artificial grass sports pitch with associated development including storage building, fencing, floodlighting and access road at Mearns Castle High School sports field, Brimburn Drive, Newton, Mearns. Can I ask who is to speak to this from the planning department? Is it yourself, Julie, or is Alan speaking? Alan, can I bring you in then to introduce the application?
Yes, thank you. I'll just briefly introduce the report. So the application is at Mearns Castle High School, Sports Field, Brimburn Drive, Newton Mearns. And as explained, the proposal is for the construction of an all-weather athletics track on the existing playing field to include an artificial grass pitch in the centre and associated development, including the storage building, fencing, floodlighting and access.
Hello? Oh, for goodness sake. Hello?
Good afternoon, Betty.
Councillor Cunningham, have you entered?
About
Thank you
time.
very much.
Eh?
We've started the meeting. Alan's just introducing the first item before us today.
Right.
Thank you very much. Alan?
Okay, thanks. At present, the site is a play surface sports pitch and running track together with adjacent grassed areas which form part of the playing field associated with the high school. Although used as a school playing field, the site forms a continuous space, effectively running into the adjacent Brimburn Park. There's an existing pedestrian route running from Brimburn Drive, which connects to the school via some steps.
Into your bed.
This will be retained, but with the addition of a vehicle access point for service vehicles at Brimburn Drive, which will house 3 disabled parking spaces.
3?
The proposal also includes a small storage building to the south of the site, as well as fencing consisting of a 2-metre high boundary fence around the site perimeter. And within the site, there's ball stop fences of 3 metres and 5 metres in height. There's also 10, 15-metre high floodlighting columns. Moving on briefly to the representations, you'll see from the report that we've received a total of 129 representations, which are split evenly between objections and support for the proposals. The matters raised are listed in the report and I won't go into them, but they do include concerns over environmental impacts, parking, loss of green space, restriction of public access and loss of visual amenity. In terms of support, the improvement of the facilities is recognised together with the health and community benefits. Moving on to the assessment briefly, the main issues identified are impact on character and amenity, parking and access, and impact on light from the loss of amenity from the floodlighting. In terms of parking and access, roads have no objections subject to conditions. It's noted that one of the conditions recommended is that facility is used solely to deliver the PE curriculum. In this regard, the applicant is advised that the facility is only for educational use, which includes sporting events with other schools, which would be in the early evening or on Saturday mornings. These aren't regular events, it's stressed by the applicant, however. So in terms of the approach to that, what we've done is we've been proposing the imposition of a planning condition to restrict the hours of use to the times required for the educational use, and this is considered to address the road's consultation response. A condition is therefore recommended restricting evening use up to 8 PM to 1 PM on a Saturday. In terms of the lighting impacts, the applicant has submitted a light spill diagram, and environmental health are satisfied with the information submitted. In this regard, the restriction by condition to 8 PM will address this, any potential disturbance from light from the floodlights. In terms of the impact on character and amenity, it's noted that the site is open to the public just now, and the proposal is to restrict access. The applicant is advised that this is for health and safety reasons and to prevent damage. In planning terms, given that the site will still be in recreational use and will be used by the school as existing, there is considered to be no conflict with the relevant planning policies outlined in the report. Furthermore, the visual impact and impact on the local environment is not considered to be a significant issue given the existing use, site context and the proposed conditions. In summary, the proposal is to upgrade and expand the existing sports facilities for Mearns Castle High School, which are currently substandard and insufficient to meet the curricular needs of the pupils. Following assessment, it's considered that the proposal complies with the relevant policies and it's recommended for approval, subject to the conditions set out in the report.
Thank you very much, Alan. I'm going to open it out to the committee for any comments or questions. Councillor Cunningham, because I can't see if you've put a hand up, are you wishing to come in? Any comments or questions?
That's up at the Mearns Castle School, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, it's attached to the school across the road for the other playing field is.
It's to replace where the existing playing field is just now. Alan, can I bring you in just to quickly describe the location?
No.
Yes, it's effectively
replacing.
replacing.
The one that Target put up.
No, it's not the one across the road, Betty.
No, it's
the one at the bottom of the cliff underneath the school, Betty.
Yes, it's down a
Wait a minute, Connie, why do you talk?
Alan, can I bring you in, please, just to describe?
Yes, so it's obviously it's the existing Blaze pitch, so it's behind effectively Mearns Castle High School on the corner of Broom Park Drive and the other streets.
Is that across the road for the nursing home that's there?
No.
No, right, okay. That's fine, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, so it's visible from Broomburn Drive and Ballantrae Drive. So it's effectively replacing that pitch, but also expanding slightly into the surrounding area, which is all controlled and owned by the School as Education Authority.
Right, okay. And there's no many houses behind it, is there?
The closest houses are on Broomburn Drive and Ballantrae Drive, which effectively overlook the open space and the existing blaze area.
And you're not going to have it at use at night for with these floodlights, because that'll cause a problem, won't it?
Yeah, but we're restricting the use of the facility till 8 o'clock at night. The applicant has indicated that really it shouldn't be used any later than 7 o'clock, but to provide a little bit extra flexibility, we'll be restricting that till 8. So at the moment, it's purely for educational use.
Right, okay. And it'll remain that way?
Yeah, yes, as far as we know, it will stay that way. If the school, the Education Authority, want to make any changes, then they'll need to come back to us in planning and ask for that.
Right, no bother. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Alan. I didn't see which order people put their hands up, but I'm just going to bring you up in the order that you're on my screen, Councillor Swift.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. And I was first to put my hand up, so there you go. You're on the ball today, or maybe coincidentally. But anyway, yeah, I've got to say, as a local elected member, I welcome this because the facilities at Mearns Castle are pretty grim and are by far and away the worst that we have for any of the high schools. So I think it's important to keep that in context. Mr. Pepler described it as the facilities as substandard, and he's absolutely on the money there. However, I also would like to say I welcome that this is solely for use by the school, solely for use by PE and potentially competitive games against other schools. So I think if we retain it under those conditions, I think it's great. And I know that as many other people will know, there are other external organisations eyeing this with avaricious eyes, with a desire to stick sports pavilions on it. And I know that that's not in front of us today. But what I do think we can do is send a very powerful signal by actually restricting the hours, not to 8 p.m. but to 7 p.m. The schools have said that they only require it till 7 p.m. We should retain that 7 p.m. Also in the winter time, you know, people aren't likely to want to be out later than that, and it's dark very, very early. So the impact on neighbours is going to be diminished by doing that. So I think there are two good reasons to do that. One is to send a powerful message, and possibly even to people who might choose to want to lease it out externally to the school somewhere later on in time, that actually there's a reason for restricting it to 7 p.m. So that would be my, I am absolutely in favour of this, but with one minor change. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swift. Can I just double check something? You said that the school had stated that they only wanted it to 7 p.m. Is that in the report handling in front of us? It's just if you could show me that Alan is. Thank you, Alan. Have the school stated they only want it till 7 p.m?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I move on to Councillor Convery?
Hi, thank you very much, Chair. I just had a couple of concerns regarding this. One of them was the car parking, but as it states, the school, they're still going to be able to use the car parking in the school, which is good. And the only parking via Broomburn Drive, if I'm correct, is 3 disabled parking spaces, so there really shouldn't be much effect on that drive. And the fact that pedestrians will still have access to the footpaths, because in some of the representations, that was some of the concerns that they had, and that there's one of the representations was we were balls basically hitting fences, but there, as it says in the report, I mean, there's going to be ball stop fences installed, so that obviously shouldn't be an issue either. And as for the acoustic, it was mentioned about the acoustic fence that was mentioned by Environmental Health, and it says that yes, it will mitigate noise, but it will also be more visible to the surrounding area. So you need to decide what's better, less noise or less visible. Basically, as I see it, all that's been done is a much needed upgrade of an old existing track and football pitch that will be used a lot by the school, and I don't see why anybody wouldn't agree to this, so I think that we should pass it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swansea. Councillor Miller, please, and then Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. I also picked up the parking issue there. I take it, Alan, there's the 3 parking disabled parking bays, and that's the only parking there. Is there any further parking?
No, there's no.
No,
No
so that's just the 3. Right,
Yeah.
that's fine. The other thing I was going to mention, I'm of an age that I can remember actually playing hockey in that field many years ago, and I don't think that it'll have been upgraded ever since. So I would suggest that this playing field really does need an upgrade for Mearns-Castle, because Mearns-Castle is obviously one of the biggest schools we've got. So we've really got to have the same facilities there as elsewhere. But I live very close to Willingwood High School, and I see these lights in Willingwood burning to 10 o'clock at night, and a lot of the neighbours have a lot of problems with the lights there. So, and I heard what Alan was saying, that they want it to 7 o'clock, but they want to be an hour's leeway. I think if they want it to 7 o'clock, I'm quite happy to give them 7 o'clock to keep it to 7. And if the school are quite happy with that, I'm quite happy with that as well. So I'd change that condition to 8 and 19 o'clock rather than 20 o'clock. I propose that change, put it that way.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I'd agree with all of the comments everybody has said. I mean, I'm like Councillor Miller. I'm of an age when I was the first 5th year to move up to Mearns-Castle High School from Williamwood, and I don't think the facilities have changed, and that would be over 40 years ago. But that was one of my concerns, was the lighting, how long they're going to put the lights on for, because as Councillor Swift mentioned, there will be organisations viewing this. Hopefully they will use it, especially the running track, because there's a lot of people throughout East Renfrewshire use running tracks. So I would certainly support that, cutting back from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock. But on the whole, I think it's something that's really needed, especially at Mearns-Castle High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Provost Fletcher.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just unmuting myself there. Yeah, like everybody else, I'm very supportive of this. I mean, we have always invested in our schools, and sometimes, you know, it's not always supported by the people who live next door to the schools. And I understand the frustration if maybe your children have gone through school and all the rest of it, you don't have a direct relationship with the school, and you just see this as nuisance. But I do think it's got, you know, enormous benefits. Mearns-Castle, as has been said already, has poorer facilities than most of our other high schools, and I think the upgrade is desperately needed, and clearly that's recognised by the school community, given the level of support there is for this application. So I do think we need to keep Mearns-Castle at the forefront of as one of our premier schools, not just educationally, but in the sports front as well. And the children that go there deserve the best facilities that we as a council can give them. I have to say I'm a bit surprised at some of the restrictions on it. I mean, the schools in Moan Wards, Ninians and Wood Farm have these fields in use to about 10 o'clock at night. And if you know Wood Farm and you know the cages, they are adjacent to houses there. So, you know, the precedent seems to be that schools do use them beyond 7 o'clock or even 8 o'clock at night. I'm sure that the Wood Farm ones, like Williamwood ones, go on to about 10 o'clock. But, you know, I wouldn't die in a ditch over it. If the school are not asking for evening use, then, you know, I don't personally see the need to go down to 7 o'clock, but maybe a minority of one. I would probably just leave it at 8 o'clock, given that the other schools are running to 10 o'clock at least. But in principle, I think this is good for the area. It's not just good for the schools, but I think even some of the people who are objecting certainly won't object to Mearns Castle being kept as one of our premier schools and the benefits that come with that, with the increase in house prices and all the rest of it, that many people in East Renfrewshire enjoy because of the quality of our education. So I think this is not just good for the school community, but I actually think it's good for the whole community as well. And happy to see this go forward with the restrictions that are suggested by the planning department, and I'm happy to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Provost. Councillor Convery and Councillor McLean, I see your hands are still up. Are you wishing to come back in just now? Okay, thank you very much. I'm in complete agreement with what's been said regarding this is desperately needed. I fully agree with the Provost there. It will be a great addition when it's completed. I think it's something that's very, very necessary for the school. Sharon, I am going to move that we accept the recommendation to approve, but we have an amendment to condition which has been submitted by Councillor Swift, and I'm wondering how best to work our way through that. Do we move the application and then go on to with the condition?
Yeah, if you want to, if I take Councillor Swift's amendment, first of all, does he have a seconder for that amendment?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Is that Councillor McLean? Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anyone who wants to, is in line with the motion as it currently stands?
I think Provost Fletcher said that he was. I'm happy with the 8 o'clock as it stands at the moment. So I'd like to put forward that it stands at 8, given that what was said by the Provost that a lot of the other pitches are on till 10, and this is reducing it to 8 o'clock. And we've got a good lot of information in front of us about the lux levels that would reach the gardens just being 5 lux. So I'm happy with it remaining at 8. But do you have a seconder?
Yeah, I would be happy to see that, Chair. I don't think 8 o'clock's unreasonable, particularly when they're only asking for an hour, just in case there's any slight overlap. I don't think there's even an intention to use it to 8 o'clock, but they're just giving themselves an hour's grace. As I say, it's not something that would die in a ditch over, but I think to be reasonable to the education department, given that we see what's happening in other schools, I think 8 o'clock's perfectly reasonable, just in case there's the odd occasion where they do drift beyond 7 o'clock.
Okay,
But I'm happy to second your motion.
Thank you very much. Sharon?
Okay, so that's fine. So we've got the original motion in front of us, which was proposed by Councillor Ireland and seconded by Councillor Fletcher. And that's to approve the planning application subject to the conditions listed in the report. And then we've also got the amendment, which was proposed by Councillor Swift and seconded by Councillor McLean, to approve the planning application subject to the conditions listed in the report with an update to condition 1, and that's to detail that for the hours they should be not used out with the hours of 9 AM to 7 PM. So that's an amendment from 8 PM Monday to Friday in that condition there. So if I can just take those two and go around everybody in terms of a vote, if that's okay.
Okay.
Could I possibly speak to my amendment very briefly? I've got a couple of comments I'd like to make.
Certainly, Councillor Swift.
Thank you. First of all, let me say it's gratifying that everybody supports this and supports the improvement of the facilities for young people who attend Mearns Castle. But I think it's important to understand context and proximity, because there is a significantly greater proximity of houses to this sports facility than there are in other local facilities. So I would absolutely accept that Williamwood and that Wood Farm, etc. It's in Ninians. So Ninians isn't anywhere near. The facilities aren't that close to the houses, and they're mostly screened by trees. For people who literally are going to be across the road from this, there is no screening by trees. They are literally across the road, and whilst I would accept that the lux levels are better, the proximity is still pretty grim, and there's going to be noise, and there's going to be people shouting and bawling and all the rest of it. So I don't think that is an unreasonable condition to set. The other thing that's important to suggest is all these other facilities have got much better parking next to them. Mearns Castle doesn't. and the problem that around the parking, as well as if people are starting, if parents are out, because one day parents will be allowed to see their children play sport, but with parents and all sorts of other people potentially gumming up the local roads, that's not a helpful predicament for people who live next door and just, as I said, literally across the road. So it wasn't just out of kind of sheer bloody mindedness that I suggested this, and other people agreed that it was a reasonable amendment to make. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Councillor Swift. Sharon, can I turn back to yourself?
Okay, thank you. I'll just go through everybody then. So Councillor Ireland, can I take your vote?
Motion.
For the motion or for the amendment?
Motion.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, can I take your
Amendment.
vote for the amendment? Councillor Fletcher?
Motion.
Motion. Councillor Miller?
Amendment.
Councillor Swift?
Amendment.
Councillor McLean?
Amendment.
Councillor Convery?
Motion.
The motion. Okay, so based on that, I've got 3 votes for the motion and 4 votes for the amendment. So on that basis, the decision of the Planning Access Committee is to approve the planning application subject to the conditions listed in the report with an update to condition 1. I'll just read that in full just for clarity. So that's unless otherwise agreed in writing by the planning authority, the running track, specific pitch and floodlights hereby approved shall not be used out with the hours of 9 AM to 7 PM, Monday to Friday, or 9 AM to 1 PM on a Saturday. And the reason for that is to safeguard the residential amenity of the adjacent property.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this when it's built. It's going to be a fantastic facility. So thank you very much, everyone. We have one more item in to consider today. That is application number 2021-0421, and it's the erection of 27 lock-up garages at land to the rear of Alexander Avenue in Eaglesham. Alan, will you be introducing the application today?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the application is for erection of 27 lock-up garages on land to the rear of Alexander Avenue, Eaglesham. At present, the land forms the rear parking area, which serves 5 flatted blocks, which are accessed from Alexander Avenue and Craigbank Crescent. The land at present appears to be used predominantly for parking, but also informally for bin storage and recreation. The applicant has advised that the garages would be available for rent, but not exclusively for the use of the adjacent residents. The applicant has also advised that the lock-up garages would be used as vehicle or personal storage and not for commercial or business purposes. We've received 52 representations raising various issues which are listed in the report. I won't go through these in detail, but in summary, the matters raised relate to mainly safety, loss of parking, loss of amenity, overdevelopment, and loss of bin storage, play space and drying area. You will see from the report that we have recommended refusal for two reasons. Number 1 is the loss of character and amenity for local residents, and number 2 is, following the roads consultation, it's the detrimental impact on public and road safety due to the intensification of use. Just to elaborate a bit further on the roads consultation response, the land where the lock-ups are proposed is not adopted, and the concern from the roads service relates to the knock-on impact of the development on the adjacent public road due to the displacement of vehicles who would normally park at the site and wouldn't do so in the future. This would be exacerbated by the dimensions of the garages, which do not meet the road standards, and as such, roads feel that they wouldn't necessarily be used for the parking of vehicles. In response to the concerns raised by the Planning Authority, the the applicants have stated that the land is essentially unused and that there is demand for these facilities by local residents. In conclusion, it's considered that the potential harm to local residents outweighs any potential benefits in terms of providing additional storage facilities at this location. Therefore, it's recommended for refusal for the reasons set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. Can I open it out to the committee if anyone's got any comments or questions? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think Alan's actually said everything there, because I've always received quite a lot of complaints about this, that where the car's going to go at the back. I mean, I actually went round there the other day and I still don't see where they're going to put 27 garages. There was actually, I counted over 40 cars parked behind these flats, and it was the complaints not just from the flat owners themselves, the residents in Craigbank Crescent and Alexander Avenue, that the cars are going to come out from there and park on the road. Bearing in mind we're going to have the new law coming in fairly soon about no parking in pavements, it's going to make it just a nightmare for the residents down there. Where are the bins going to go? So I think, I mean, I know there's 52 representations, but believe me, there's been a lot more complaints I've certainly received from that. And this seems to be a thing now, building garages. Can I ask Alan, do they actually own that land? Because there was some debate from local residents that they own the land and it's on their title deeds. And this was part of the thing they didn't know. Some of them are seeking legal advice on it.
Yes, we actually queried that, and the applicant did provide title information to say that they do own the land. I think they only own the land where the lockups would be located. So they've obviously at some point in the past purchased that land. The access to the back of the flats, is my understanding is that it will be communally owned. So
yeah.
And I think the space around the back, most of it will be communally owned, perhaps, or it's factored. We don't need to get into that level of detail, but no, it is clear that they actually do.
Okay.
From what we can gather, they do own the land where the garages will be located, even if they don't have necessarily full control over every aspect of the access, etc.
No, that's fine. But I mean, I would wholeheartedly reject this, because it's just going to put far too many cars out in the road. It's going to put bins out in the road as well, because there will be no place to store them. But at the front of the houses, it's just going to be an eyesore. So on the basis that outlined previously, I would reject that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Chair. I quite agree with everything that Councillor McLean has said. And once upon a time, I was with Councillor Neilson as well, and I did get complaints about that area, and not only so much the area itself, but the access to it, which the bin lorries were that time reversing in to get the bins, because it is a bin storage area, and the access road, which wasn't adopted and still not obviously not adopted, was just getting rutted. So unless, and I don't see anything in the application to say that they're going to sort the road. The other thing is they say it's not going to be a commercial operation, but then if you're going to be letting out garages, that is, to me, that is a commercial operation. So, and it's great to see David Haney here, because we always see his name but never see his, put the face to it. But I think you're absolutely spot on in rejecting this one this time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Provost Fletcher?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, fully understand this application, because I have to say I've never seen anything like this before in my life. I'm puzzled that these lockups, some of the objections say that they're not large enough to house cars. Is that accurate? Or, I'm trying to get my head around what the purpose of them is, because the allegation is there's a market for these sort of things. So why would somebody build a lockup which couldn't house a car? Where's the market? What's it for? And where, and it seems there's a suggestion that it's not just for people in the area, but for people who live out with the area. And I'm struggling to get my head around why somebody would drive into Eaglesham to want to store something there, you know, I'm happy to support the recommendation. My gut feeling reading it was a nonsense, and I think that, you know, the recommendation from planners is correct to reject it. That's my gut feeling, but I'm not sure I fully quite understand what they want here. Thank you.
Alan, are you able to come in on the comment about the size of the lockups? I seem to remember there was something from, correct me if I'm wrong, from the roads department that also stated this as well.
Yes, I think the garages are big enough to hold some cars, but roads have certain standards that they require for garages. The dimensions are 5.22 by 2.86, and for a double garage it's sorry, and the road standard is 7 by 3 meters. So, I mean, to put it into context, a car parking space is normally can be 5 meters by 2.5, 2.75. It varies depending on the size of the car. So you can clearly get a decent sized family car in the space, but it still doesn't meet the road standards. So that was more the point. So I think the applicant would probably argue, well, you know, you can get a car in here. So it's just to clarify that, really. So they don't meet the road standards in terms of when roads require a garage of a certain space to count as a space, because vehicles are getting bigger, so the standards have changed slightly. So it's in terms of meeting the road standards, but technically this is not on. These garages will not be coming out onto an adopted road. So it's a displacement issue that roads are concerned with as well.
Right. I'm struggling to understand the market for it. I mean, if local people in Eagleson were saying, yeah, this is a great idea, you know, I would like to park my car in a lockup rather than leave it in the street or whatever, I can maybe see the strength of it, but I'm not getting the sense of it that local people want it. So I struggle to get my head round why somebody would want to rent out a garage which is or a lockup which is overly small that you can barely get a family car in. You know, where's the market that they plan to store in it? And where's the demand coming from? But, you know, maybe that's not strictly planning issues, but my gut feeling is the recommendation to refuse is a correct one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to support what has been said by Councillors Miller and McLean. I can't see any usefulness in terms of the spillover effects to the community in terms of bins and car parking. There is no gain to the local community. The garages, well, I think it's debatable. You could probably get a small car in there or not. You might even get Del Boy's three-wheeler in there, I don't know. But I'm not sure what use it provides to the community. And you know, again, I would support the planners in the decision they've drawn.
Yeah.
I don't always support the planners in the decision that they've drawn, but today I think it's absolutely the right decision.
Thank you very much. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, sorry, it was just to add the final point. I forgot to add it in my last comment. Well over 50% of these flats are sublet, so it would be unlikely that the people that are in these flats would be buying the garages. There is garages there which the owners of the flat already have. So the people that would be buying them wouldn't be the people in the flats. So again, it wouldn't be, it would be people out with it that were just looking for storage and things like that. So I just wanted to add that point. Thanks.
Oh, no, thank you very much for that. Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Chair. Maybe Councillor McLean could correct me. I think a lot of these flats, when they were built the way back in the 60s, did have small lockups attached to them, and all these lockups have since been sold on.
Some of them are still owned by some of the people that are in it, but some of them have been sold, and some of them I know just have storage in them from people out with the village that they have actually since sold them on. But there's not, I think there's maybe about 10 of them, maybe a dozen at most garages there just now. But there is a few of the occupant of the owners of the flat still have, but not very many.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunningham, are you wishing
Yeah.
to comment at all?
Well, I agree with everything that's getting said. I don't know why they're there. I don't know what they're getting used for, right? And I've certainly heard what I've read and what I've heard about it. I get a matchbox smoke. That's the only thing that was in it. So I don't know what they're there for. And another question I have is, I don't know how, if the people in the flats don't own them, or only own so many of them, how they're allowed to be. I know they can build on ground that doesn't belong to you, but I mean, I don't know what kind of confusion that's going to cause.
No, thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Cunningham. Do you want me to go
I
to
don't
Anna?
understand if they've built a concrete garage on, you know, land that doesn't belong to them. Who actually has got the authority to say remove it, or who, whatever, right? You know, if that ever happened.
Oh, thank you. Alan, are you wishing to come in on that point?
Just to clarify that you do own the land as far as we can find out. So we're satisfied that they do own the land and they've provided us with the correct information.
What do you mean?
Thank you very much. I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with the comments that have been made by the other members of the committee. I see here that it's against policy D1 and D2, and the reasons are significant intensification of use for this area, resulting in a significant loss of character and amenity for adjacent residents. I mean, that does speak for itself. Can I move that we accept the recommendation to refuse?
Yeah.
Do you have a seconder?
I'll second.
Is that yourself? Yeah, Councillor McLean, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Sharon, can I pass over to yourself, unless anyone is otherwise minded?
No. Okay.
Thank you very
So,
much, Sharon.
yeah, just to confirm then, the decision of the committee is to refuse the planning application.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's all we had in front of us today. So I want to thank you very much for your time. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.